Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This is going to be a fun and exciting hospitality and travel and tourism lunch break. I am very pleased to have three amazing leaders in the travel and tourism space in the southeastern United States to be able to get their insights on all things travel and tourism related. But first, I should add that we are recording this and we will be in the mode that you will be able to see the speakers, but we will not be able to see you. But you do have the opportunity to log your questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom. And then when we get to later in the webinar, we will have the opportunity to answer your questions. So I'm going to start by giving you just a brief intro of my background. I'm Chrissy Gathright, and I am the former Chief Operating Officer of Apple Hospitality REIT. I'm actually sitting in the Apple Hospitality REIT offices today in Richmond, Virginia. We have a board meeting, and I sit on the board. And so I'm looking forward to getting the exciting update from our management team. For those of you who are not familiar with Apple Hospitality REIT, we are the largest publicly traded select service and extended stay focused lodging REIT in the United States. We own 225 hotels and almost 30,000 units across 38 states. And we franchise those hotels primarily from Hilton and Marriott. And actually, if you were listening this morning on CNBC or close just about an hour ago, I think it was, Chris Nassetta was actually on and had the opportunity to talk about Hilton and their stock hitting a 52-week high. So a lot of positivity, especially for them in growing their brands. And also recently they just announced a partnership with small luxury hotels. So if you travel with Hilton now, you will have the opportunity to use your points, earn points and redeem points with several lovely hotels, independent hotels in that portfolio. So that was pretty exciting. I'm going to now introduce our esteemed panelists. I have the pleasure of introducing Rita first, Rita McClenny. She serves as the president and CEO of the Virginia Tourism Corporation. The Virginia Tourism Corporation is a state agency charged with marketing the Commonwealth as a premier travel destination and location, both domestically and internationally. Prior to this role, Rita worked to recruit and expand film production in Virginia as director of the Virginia Film Office. She has served on several tourism-related boards, including the U.S. Travel Association, the National Council of State Tourism Directors, and the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. She also has the unique experience of serving for 4 different administrations in Virginia, both Democratic and Republican. So thank you, Rita. Dwayne Parrish is the director for the South Carolina Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. That's a state cabinet agency dedicated to tourism promotion for South Carolina, and also integrates the state park system into the state's overall tourism and recreation offering. He was appointed to the current cabinet position by Governor Nikki Haley in January of 2011. Parrish has dedicated over 35 years of his professional career to the hospitality industry, including extensive experience in hospitality management and development throughout South Carolina. He served as president of Premier Hospitality Group and held senior management positions with leading hotel brands. He has also served as an adjunct professor at the College of Charleston and Trident Technical College. And he previously led the Charleston Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And finally, we have Whit Tuttle. He was named executive director of Visit North Carolina in November of 2013. He oversees the strategic planning, policy development, and marketing initiatives for North Carolina's official state tourism office and the industry sectors it serves. He's been in North Carolina tourism since 2006 And during this time, his office has been recognized with numerous national awards for excellence in marketing and advertising. He has served as the chair of the board of directors of Travel South USA and serves on the board of the U.S. Travel Association. He has more than 25 years experience in the tourism industry, including working for Universal Studios Florida and the Orlando Orange County Convention and Visitors Bureau. He also graduated from the University of Florida and, fun fact, was a reporter for the Anchorage, Alaska Times.
Hey,
So,
Chrissy, we have
yes,
to mention that you're class of SIBF 20. I'm class
yeah,
of 21.
I am class of SIBF 20 and you're class of 21. And so I've been very much enjoyed having the privilege of meeting wonderful people like Rita, but also having the opportunity to engage with others like Whit and Dwayne. So I'm going to kick it off with, we're getting ready to come upon the Super Bowl. And I just saw an ad come across my computer that for a Super Bowl first, the U.S. Tourism Agency is advertising internationally. They're actually targeting or trying to target during the Super Bowl the UK and Germany audiences who have become huge fans of not just European football, which they already are, but US football. So it will be a time to try to draw greater and US, the travel from UK and Germany is they're very high travel partners with the US. So thinking about that for the group, and Rita, we can start with you. Why don't you speak a little bit or share a little bit of information about economic impact and that travel and tourism generate in the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and what you do also to work with your partners, is specifically Whit and Dwayne in attracting both domestic and international travel here.
Well, thank you, Chrissy. Well, first of all, for Super Bowl weekend, for sure. And we looked Virginia, like the nonstop flights that are coming in from the UK as well as Germany to Virginia, Dulles Airport. That's extremely important because people want the efficiency of having a nonstop flight. Now, we don't have headquartered in Virginia a UFL, a football team, a national football team. However, the Commanders are close by. But sports is such an important sector as well. So when we look at entertainment, sports, we look at expansion of the NFL, and we know that year round and year over year, they're playing games in the UK and Germany, and their expansion plans include. So we want that sports connection felt by our international inbound. Now we're down a bit in international inbound, and that's for several reasons. So we're still in recovery mode when it comes to international travelers coming to the U.S. I will say one thing about that through U.S. Travel, which are overarching organization, that as an example, in the UK, there are 100 countries that do not require a visa to visit the UK. Guess how many for USA non-visa countries? Only 42. So we're at a real deficit when it comes to ease of travel globally, and we really need to fix that. So that's one of our priorities when we look with respect to calling on Congress and lawmakers to make sure that we are in a better strategic and competitive position to invite travelers to the USA. And of course, from my perspective, and we're all in a group, Travel South, and Dwayne's past chair. Were you chair of Travel South? So they both been chairs, so they can really speak to, the mission and the purpose and how our 14 states that are now members, work together. So for economic impact in Virginia on tourism, we're $30.3 billion sector on the visitor spending economy. And that's about 1.8 billion in state and local taxes, and right at about 300,000 jobs in Virginia. So that's the impact on the Commonwealth with visitor travel. And in the visitor travel, that's of course business, leisure, and all categories of travel.
Great, Rita. So WIT, as she mentioned, the Travel South, that is an initiative that's very collaborative to attract international travelers. As the past chair, can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think it's a great concept. What we know about the international visitors when they come to the U.S. is they stay a long time and they spend a lot of money, twice as much as what domestic visitors bring. But they visit multiple states when they come here. They don't want to just come to Virginia or just North Carolina or South Carolina. They're going to go visit the American South. You know, they may fly into D.C. And then drive down and spend 2 weeks, spend 3 weeks, and leave from Miami. So it makes sense for us to work together because they want to see all of us. So we also all have limited budgets, so it helps us to market together, and we can explore things that we couldn't do on our own. So it's been very beneficial. Brand USA has been a great partner for that. That's the U.S. Travel, essentially the United States destination organization like we are. Some would say North Carolina doesn't have a football team either. We have the Charlotte Panthers. They're a great team. It's a great stadium. But I think what's neat about the NFL is Brand USA is really trying to, showcase everything that's really American. And what's more American than American football? So it's a great chance, I think, for them to extend that brand of the USA using the Super Bowls. So I think it's a really good idea for them.
And
we do things like that.
I hear half of you people are descending upon Las Vegas. They've already started landing. They've already run out of space for private planes to park. So, I mean, clearly, if you can attract a Super Bowl, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and the world watches. It's one of the few times where an American sporting event is seen by the world. You wouldn't get the same thing with the baseball World Series. So I think it's a really smart move. We don't do anything that big at Travel South, but we do a lot of joint marketing. We've done things with the British Open and other strategies. Dwayne was really involved in that. So it's just a good way for us to get our message out collectively.
What's your economic impact for North Carolina on business?
Oh, yes. And so ours is fairly similar. It's $33 billion in spending. It's about 250,000 people directly employed in the industry. And I think the tax dollars that Rita mentioned, ours is about the same 1.8. That's really important in that these are taxes. People are coming, they're paying this money, and then they're leaving. You don't have to provide the services for them. So that's a real value that tourism brings to communities is people come, spend money, and leave. It's a great export for the United States.
And we need to be thinking about travel and tourism as an export. People are coming in, they are spending dollars and consuming services and creating value and revenue, certainly. So you mentioned WIT, you mentioned golf, and Dwayne, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the British Open. Actually, I love South Carolina. Kiowa and Charleston are two of my favorite places. So why don't you talk a little bit more about your state and your travel impact on your state as well?
Sure. Thank you, Chrissy. And yes, we're a state known for beaches and golf. And so we've sort of ridden that wave of golf success post-COVID. I realized quickly after COVID that as a way to social distance, golf became very popular. Both the millennials picked it up, Top Golf came along, baby boomers got back into it, and golf's riding a high right now. We've had, statewide, we've had not only the most number of rounds played over the last couple of years, but also the largest increase in revenue in golf. We're blessed to have we've always had our RBC Heritage taking place every April in Hilton Head, but this year we've got an additional tournament in Myrtle Beach. The Myrtle Beach Classic will take place in May. We had a couple of one-offs, I'll call it, if you will, during the PGA Tour when they're post-COVID that put us on national television, which was a big deal for us in terms of golf. So we've ridden that high a little bit, and golf is somewhat like the European visitor, that they spend more per day, typically stay a little longer than the average domestic visitor does. So just from an economic impact standpoint, we're very similar numbers to both Virginia and North Carolina. We're right at just over $29 billion in economic impact, about 240,000 jobs, and then about 1.9 billion in state and local income or state and local taxes. So very similar to the numbers that they are, but that 1.9 billion is a big relief on in-state residents, taxes that they don't have to pay. We've calculated in different places, but we save anywhere from $400 to $800 a year alone on the on the property taxes on most houses for residents in South Carolina, depending upon where you are. But that's a big impact for us. Golf is a niche market, but it's by far our largest niche. It is probably 15% of our total tourism product throughout the state. We have about 360 golf courses throughout South Carolina that are majority of which are open to the public to play. Visitors come from not just domestic, but come from international as well, as we talked about. We've had our partnership with Travel South that Whit and Rita sort of touched on is critical for us, as Whit mentioned about being able to pool the money together. Those 14 states come together, pool it. We spend that as a whole. We market sort of Americana, if you will, food, culture, history, those things that the South is known for. Market that to European travelers in particular, but other places around the world as well. But we know we're not going to get them on their first trip. They're coming to New York, they're coming to Las Vegas, or Los Angeles, or Orlando, what have you. But that second, third, certainly the third, fourth trip they come into the U.S., we want to get that. We've increased our market share over the last 7 to 8 years in the South. But as Whit mentioned, they stay longer, spend more, but they also don't care about borders. I mean, they not really even sure whether Charlotte is in North or South Carolina. They really don't care. That's fine with us. We just want them to come in, and as Whit pointed out, they stay in 3 or 4 states at a time, spend that money. We've even gone over to market ourselves just North and South Carolina with a map of just says Carolina without the line between the two. That's how important it is for us. Last thing I'll touch on, you asked about golf and the British Open. So the last couple of years, we've done a partnership we call an activation with North Carolina to basically golf tour operators, what we kind of call travel agents in the U.S. that specialize in golf packages out of Europe into the U.S. Those that specialize, particularly in some even into the Southeast. We've gone over there and marketed ourselves at a time when their top tournament, or they just call it the Open, not the British Open, but the Open there to highlight golf. We want to highlight golf packages and golf courses and the places and those things that we have in the Carolinas, places like Pinehurst in North Carolina, places like Kiowa and Harbortown in South Carolina. And that's very successful for us. Like I said, we're known for golf here and want to sort of capitalize on the time when golf's riding a high. So hope that answers your question regarding.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned marketing, so let's drill down on that a little bit further. You know, what we're seeing at a lot of our hotels is a lot of younger travelers. Well, lots of different demographics, but certainly a younger traveler that really is giving a preference towards experiences, and quite often blending work from home, work from remote, blending leisure and business. How have you changed your marketing strategies or evolved your marketing strategies to capture that share of wallet for this newer traveler that, in some cases I might call like a digital nomad, and how are you utilizing technology to help in that? And I know in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Rita, you can't use TikTok, though. You certainly can't be doing those videos.
Yeah, put the spark on that one. But hey, every other platform, technology is really the path forward, and making the call for visitors as technology savvy as possible, but also, personalization. Let's feed people what they have a track record for. We work with several vendors that have the digital footprints. We look at points of interest, the heat maps, and getting data from the airlines as well as the hotels. So all of that really helps us focus our marketing and to really have that conversion at the highest level possible. We're using obviously a lot of digital assets to do that, and the trailers and the teasers, and using influencers, people who the target audience will listen to and have a high regard for their taste. We see Insta Reels and YouTube as a couple of locations that we really can find the audience and use compelling images and really have just a lot of creative assets that appeal to, various audiences. So really driving with technology, driving with creative, and keeping the attention of those target markets and the traveler profiles, feeding them what they want. You know, Virginia's known for history, but we really have so much to offer as a travel destination.
Great. Whit or Dwayne, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say social media has become a really important marketing method for all of us. We're a private agency, that nonprofit that contracts with the state. So we do have a TikTok channel, but it's not just that. It's all sorts of owned and earned social media responses to get to people. So important now, especially with the young people. There was a study the other day I saw from Tourism Economics that said 37% of the people they surveyed said they plan to travel while working, not just, before work or after work or during a work trip, but they were going to travel while they were working because of remote work. So we really want to get those people where they are, where they're thinking, and hit them. And we're fortunate, this younger crowd today, they like authenticity. And I think all three of our states have plenty of great, unique, distinct things that sell to them.
Yeah, and I'll just briefly add to that, Chrissy, that what Whit said is true. The millennials in particular have changed the landscape. If you go back to farm to table, they're looking for the experience. Craft breweries is another example of that. Now what's happened is short-term rentals. They don't want to stay in the same place every night. They want to stay in a different product. You see the hotels trying to adapt new brands like Moxie that Marriott has come out with, and the boutique hotels to try to compete. But what I'm seeing in the numbers, and it really came up in 2023, the short-term rental market had a lot greater growth in occupancy than hotels did. And so that's that trend of that millennial who's looking for that different experience in each place. It's not only in eating and drinking now, it's also in accommodations and what they do and the things they enjoy on those trips. But we have a TikTok ban as well, but we have, as Whit pointed out, many different social media channels to get to them, but also getting to people through their, there's so many ways to get through to them now. And then of course the growth of AI coming out is another way, another channel, if you will, to get to the millennials. But it's ever changing now, probably more rapidly than ever before.
And
But
the pandemic really accelerated it. I mean, it kicked the short-term rental, I think, into high gear.
yeah, certainly on the short term, that's a great segue, because as you think about trends and what the changing and evolving trends in travel and leisure experiences, certainly even as an owner of branded hotels, what we see our brands actually do is be very thoughtful of understanding if they want to keep you within their platform, if they want to keep you earning and redeeming the loyalty points at their hotels. They're really looking at what they're offering. And, for instance, Homes and Villas on, Marriott, which gives you the option of having a short-term rental-like experience. Or if you look at in the pipelines of the brands of the new hotels that they're building, the majority of them they're really high on luxury, because there's a lot of people that still want to travel and have those luxury experiences, and it's very valuable on your travel platform if I can go stay at a Courtyard and earn my points, but then redeem it for a dream trip in Mexico or something like that. But you're also seeing the new hotels or the new brands that are being built under those umbrellas are quite often extended stay type hotels that have more similarities to either apartments or short-term rentals. So certainly the trip and travel purpose, everyone is being very thoughtful about how they gear their marketing and gear their product and gear their experience to those different purposes. But let's dig a little bit deeper in that. What are some of the other trends in travel that you're seeing? We talked a little bit about trip purpose. What about, I know for many of you that have traveled, post-pandemic, certainly was very, very difficult for the travel industry. But then, with people staying at home so long and having the opportunity to get back out there, that really drove occupancies back up. And then the rates, along with a lot of other things in an inflationary environment, the rates actually went up quite a bit. Now things are certainly moderating, and you're seeing more of a stabilization and more of a return to normalcy in terms of some of the rates that are being charged. But what are some of the other things that you're seeing in terms of travelers? There's Are you seeing more international, more domestic travelers? Is there an increased focus on sustainability? Any change recently as you've from the inflationary environment where you're seeing travel budgets maybe tighten a little? Anything that you can add based on your viewpoint from your state? Who
I think
wants to start with that?
certainly a trend, accessibility, where people of all different capabilities can travel comfortably and safely and have their needs met. That's a lot of investments are happening there. I know Florida had a significant study and invested in having their infrastructure across their state, because what you really need is consistency. And you really need to ensure pretty much that the traveler can rely that what you're saying is a part of your product offering is actually there. And guaranteeing that can have some risk embedded in it, but that's one. The other, just to touch back quickly on short-term rental, I think where we are now from a policy standpoint, that the localities in Virginia, are the entity that is tracking the tax revenue generated from that line of business. And it doesn't always have the kind of exposure or significant awareness on the amount of the funds that are being collected and verifying the funds. So that's really something that I think from a policy perspective needs to have some work and relationship building. Because generally, which this won't be new news, technology is ahead of government practices, right? So the companies are so far ahead of where the collections can happen and how government is investing in ensuring that the funds flow back for reinvestment. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Rita just said. I saw a study that said 1 out of every 4 Americans has some type of a disability in the potential traveling public. So, we can't ignore those people, and we have to be clear about what exactly accessibility means. How accessible is it? What are you saying when you say something's accessible? So that's important. Another thing we saw coming out of the pandemic, in addition to the vacation rentals, was outdoor experiences. A lot of people really wanted to get outside. They wanted to get outdoors. During the pandemic, it was almost a necessity. It was basically the only things you could do. And so that presented some challenges as well as some rewards, in that everybody went to the outdoors place. A lot of people hadn't been out there. They didn't know how to experience it. They, didn't understand how to take care of it. We had people taking selfies on top of waterfalls, things you don't want people to do. So we've put a lot of investment into a program we call Outdoor NC, where we're trying to help people manage the resource, take care of it, do the right things, and just, be careful with Mother Nature when they're out there. So that's been a big change in our program.
Yeah, Christy, I'll echo what Whit said. Outdoor recreation is what I thought might be a fad after post-COVID has really become and stayed. It has not been just a fad. I think millennials discovered the outdoors. People were cooped up, and I think people reprioritized travel, particularly outdoor adventure, and made it more important. And that's everything from fishing, kayaking, canoeing, hiking, camping, all the likes of those things are more popular than ever now. And so we've responded to that in state parks. We have 47 state parks. We opened a second one last year. Another one, our 48th last year, and we'll open 4 more this year. But we've also seen record numbers in our parks over the last since COVID. We've we've had capacity issues at some of our parks, in fact. And so that's been a big trend, I think, that is around to stay. And for both baby boomers, millennials, and nearly everyone traveling. I think that the time being what I call cabin fever, if you will, during COVID, made people realize what was important to them, and they've sort of changed a little bit in what they do, not just how often they go or travel, but what they do when they travel. And so experiences we talked about earlier with millennials, but also just overall, I think people want to be outdoors and do more things and try to be a little healthier at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we see that the health aspects, and people want their children educated, so that multi-generational travel where the entirety of the family and the extended family can be together. And there was a thing called revenge travel, that was real. People, yep, they were sick of it being pent up, the cabin fever. They just wanted to get out there. And so some of the benefits of that, I think, have a longer tail. And just reminding people, hey, it's not so much about consumption. It should be about revelation of what makes you a better educated person, what enhances your children's outlook on the world. You know, we know that when you travel, you learn about other cultures, you learn about other people, and you taste, see, and experience something that you want to record, probably social media, and share to say, I was here, I did this. Aren't you jealous? Don't you want to do it too? You know, so it's a fun thing. Bragging rights on travel are I think timeless.
So speaking of those experiences, and you all have, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina have wonderful natural amenities. But we also know that in the travel business, sometimes new and shiny gets a lot of attention. So as you're working within your respective states, how do you think about, or how do you incorporate different strategies that are tied into economic development and working with your state and local economies to create those additional amenities that bring in the groups and the meetings and the travelers?
Sure, I'll start on this. So, Chrissy, one of the things I've always said is tourism is economic development. You know, visitors come in and they leave money and trash behind, and we'll pick up the trash. And so we're very clean. We're a very clean energy, excuse me, a very clean industry. So, but the other part of that I've always tell my counterpart at Commerce Department is that no one ever moves a business here without being a visitor first. And so if they're going to move a business, they're going to visit multiple times. If they have bad experiences, less likely to move the business here. So I think tourism, I've always said, sort of joked that it's sort of at the tip of the spear in terms of economic development in many respects. But what's even become more important when we talked about outdoor recreation and those things is the quality of life that tourism in many respects provide for people who do want to move their families or companies, want to move their employees to that city or state. What is life like there? It used to be you just moved and you bought the cheapest land, the cheapest labor, but it's not that way today. I think large corporations are looking for so many more things, from sustainability, quality of life, that those are big decisions, and tourism plays an integral part into all those now, much more so than it ever did in the past.
And with you guys, you have a real connection with your economic development on talent retention and inward migration.
Yeah, we've done a lot of programs with that. As these guys said, the biggest challenge for economic development now for places is workforce, is getting those people to fill those high tech jobs, the jobs that the industries now, the electric vehicle industry. How do you get those people to come? Well, you have to have a place that people want to live. And the key to that is tourism. And we've seen a lot of our local tourism offices use their occupancy tax dollars to put it into product development for trails, for parks, for things like that this new generation, that's what they want to see. And part of that is being a visitor and coming in. We had one business that came to Western North Carolina that basically the CEO said, we came because we like to ride mountain bikes, and they have great mountain bike trails there. And that's the reason we put this massive business and employed thousands of people in this area, was because you got a great mountain bike trail. So, it's fascinating how tourism really is playing an even bigger role in economic development these days.
And I think investing in certain sectors like technology drives a certain profile of resident who's coming in, and really looking at, transformational opportunities in schools, and the kind of infrastructure, the tax base. What does the public policy look like to make your state attractive to visitors? And I agree 100% that they come as a visitor first, and then they stay and bring others with them. So that's a real benefit.
So Rita, speaking of that, so Amazon, building another headquarters in the Northern Virginia area, what type of impact has that had on the economy there, and how does your role play into that?
Well, at the announcement, we had a big sign, of course, Virginia's for Amazon lovers. The governor, was touting that, and it's a partnership also with Virginia Tech. So really the educational component, the business component, looking at programming from an engineering perspective. And now that's led to an announcement of what's been about a month ago to attract the Wizards across the river and the NHL team, the Capitals. So it's going to go before the General Assembly for the bonding package to see if we actually can get it across the goal line. So looking at sports, entertainment, education, a major corporate citizen, that really you are building a vibrant community and making that region, when you speak of Amazon, attractive to people wanting to raise their family in that location and live. Yeah, so it's really important. And you're at the base there of Crystal City. I mean, it was so powerful that they changed the name of the neighborhood. Now it's called National Landing, but it's super close to Alexandria, which is a historic town and on the Potomac River and just beautiful, and just across the 14th Street Bridge to DC. And you have DCA, Ronald Reagan Airport, right there at the foot of the bridge. So it's an amazing location, and it's, a very ideal scenario. And both invested, Virginia Tech, as well as Amazon. And I should say really it's a four-way, as well as, City of Alexandria.
Right. All right. Well, we're getting close to, it's 12:36. So I have a few questions already in queue, but I'm going to put another reminder. If you want to get your question in, go ahead and do that. But I'm going to ask you guys one more question, then we'll go to the audience questions or the participant questions. So Society of International Business Fellows, we think a lot about global events and political landscapes. Can you talk a bit about geopolitical risk, whether it's, what's going on in Russia or China or the Middle East, climate concerns, US political divide? How does that impact your strategy?
I think for us, we have to remain so nimble and move money around in markets. I was about a week away from getting on a flight to Tel Aviv after October the 7th and the war and the invasion and the attack. So obviously that trip was canceled. The United Airlines partnership that we were going there to announce was held up and postponed, and we moved it to Germany. So you just have to really be nimble, but also have the right partnerships that you can rely on. Where is the opportunity, and to be sensitive, because also for inbound for US, we have to look at safety. I mean, there's so many things that really have a connection to the geopolitics, but as well as what makes the US attractive to international inbound travelers.
Right. What about politics in the US and different sides having different opinions that can sometimes be polarizing and sometimes affecting groups that want to visit your state?
I'll get on my soapbox on this one. We were sort of the poster child for that a few years ago with certain bathroom legislation. And it's a shame to see. And I think that's where travel even plays a bigger role, because as we get more polarized in this country, nothing brings people together, makes us feel like we have this shared experience of being Americans more so than travel, than getting to know your neighbor, getting to know the people in the state next to you and in another part of the country. And so the more people do that, the better we know each other. And I think the better we'll get along. So I think that's the key. So, we hate to see these travel bans because they have a big impact on the local business. And a lot of times the businesses that get hurt are the businesses that people are trying to protect with the bans. So we just hope there's less and less of that, I think, in the future. And travel, I think, is a solution rather than a problem to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Whit. I mean, the way you overcome cultural differences is you travel and experience those cultural differences in other places. Whit just nailed it, whether that's domestic or whether that's international. In regard to geopolitics, you know, travel south, our 14 states we'd gone pretty heavily into China, been over there twice trying to recruit the Chinese and Asian markets, if you will, into travel south. That hasn't happened post-COVID. So that, you know, COVID, that's an international event that has affected that. We're now concentrated more on the European market. Domestically, which, right, you just don't want those things to happen. You want people to come to your state because it's great. I mean, you don't want people, you know, to not come because of who somebody's elected or somebody's passed some law about this, that, or the other. You just try to manage it, and you try to stay in the marketing lane, out of the political lane, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And China, I was going to bring up China as a great example. Chinese visitors a couple of years ago before COVID spent 10 times what a domestic visitor would spend. We were going gangbusters to try and get them. Now the politics is just not the same. It's not as easy to draw it. It's not as they're not as likely to come. So politics really does play an impact into who we can get and who we can bring.
Well, and certainly with the Chinese traveler, it seems now that the bias is to try to keep them traveling more domestically in China, but that also creates potential upside when the Chinese traveler does eventually come back and stay longer and visit. So I'm sure that you will all be prepared for that. I'm going to turn it over to a few questions now. So the first one is, how active do you see the baby boomer gen in traveling, and where do you see them spending their dollars?
Luxury. They like the good stuff. And that's working out well with us. We have a luxury program, and really just, you know, rolling out the red carpet, the best of taste of what people love in a vacation. So from our perspective, baby boomers have done well for themselves mostly, and they have time on their hands and they have disposable income. So we like to push the luxury product that way.
And they're still traveling. I think that's the great part about the boomer generation. They're still active, you know, and they're going to be active for another 10, 15 years. So that's what we really like about them, is they're the gift that keeps on giving.
Agreed with both. I mean, they're more likely to stay in a hotel than a short-term rental. They're still golf is a good example I talked about earlier. As Whit mentioned, they're very active. We see them as a large segment for the next 20, 25 years even.
Right. And then adding on to that, and we mentioned it earlier, so multi-generational travel. I mean, I know I try to travel with my kids and then my mom and her husband, and we create wonderful family memories doing that. What are some of the things that you guys do in the travel industry to create those memorable, enjoyable vacation experiences for different generations of travelers?
One thing for us in Virginia, we are the birthplace of country music. So 1927 were the first recordings by the Carter family. And there's a place in Hiltons, Virginia, Carter Family Fold. And this year is the 50th anniversary. So curating those kinds of experiences, please, you know, travel to Virginia, experience flat footing at the Carter Family Fold. Go see Wayne Henderson and make a guitar, or, you know, pull out your checkbook, because he will make you a guitar, and maybe Eric Clapton will autograph it. You know, so just music is really a great way. Then we have the birthplace of country music in Bristol, Virginia. You know, you got sports out there with some NASCAR, you know, all the things that would just make it a memorable experience. But the hands-on, like, what is that, as we talked about, unique and authentic way to take something with you that will last a lifetime, that memory will last a lifetime. Or you can go to Colonial Williamsburg or Jamestown and join in an archaeological dig, you know, and just, just some beautiful ways to connect yourself to once in a lifetime or one-time experiences that you can only find in a place.
Great. Any other?
And I think a lot of times our job as a state tourism office is maybe we can take 4 or 5 of those local experiences and put them together for the visitor, so that the local tourism office wouldn't be able to do. But say there's 8 great fly fishing spots, we can create a North Carolina fly fishing trail And so we combine those things to make that bigger influence for people. Do that with barbecue, all those kind of things that we all love, or the Parkway.
Yeah.
I'll just add one thing. We talked about short-term rental earlier. Those are places where the multi-generational family can travel together. You see it amongst the hotel chains a little bit, like Embassy Suites. You see Hilton now guaranteeing connecting rooms. That's a response to the multi-generational traveler. You see it more and more on the private sector side. I think that, marketing, we're trying to get to the decision maker on the marketing side, but on the traveling side, the product is starting to change somewhat. You see it even within Disney. They're trying to get someone my age who's at the tail end of the baby boom generation, but also they're trying to attract the 3 and 4 year old as well, and everyone in between. I think that's what's happening now, just everywhere.
Right. So going back to marketing, do you have any joint marketing efforts or programs with private industry?
We have a grants program in Virginia. Actually, we have several grant programs. We have micro business grant. We have a destination marketing organization who's responsible for marketing their region. So they can apply for a grant, but they're private public partnerships with matching dollars, sometimes 2 to 1, some are 1 to 1, and they're performance based. So we really look at the excellence of the creative idea for the marketing and what brings together the destination, the location, as well as the businesses that will benefit from it. And what are the experiences that go along with that? So you put that together in the form of a grant. So you really have people playing together and creating these creative ideas together.
Yeah, and what we do with our industry is primarily the biggest thing we do is cooperative marketing. So we'll work with hotels, with attractions, with restaurants, or local tourism offices, and we put together a whole multi-million-dollar cooperative marketing plan so they can go out and reach further than they could, because it's sort of similar to the Travel South, but we do it inside the state, so we can help extend their reach. And then we do some work with private businesses too, such as when an airline comes into the state, we'll do some cooperative marketing with them, or if the U.S. Open's coming to Pinehurst this year, so we'll work with the PGA and those folks, USGA.
Somewhat the same for us. I mean, we try to co-op with some of that, mostly through our destination marketing organizations like a Charleston Convention Visitors Bureau or Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce. We offer them cooperative partnerships, and they in turn will include private partnerships within there. So by extension, we have that. And then we have direct ones, as Whit mentioned, with some of the larger sporting events that happen throughout the state.
And for Virginia, we have a tourism development financing program, which is basically a gap financing program where you can finance up to 30% of your investment need from the developer. So the locality, the developer, and the Commonwealth of Virginia are all partners in the deal. And that was responsible for a recent announcement that we had with Kalahari Resorts and Conventions. Mm-hmm. And they are a participant in the program. So that's going to be a 900-room resort water park convention off of I-95 near Fredericksburg.
A lot of us are jealous of that program.
Can't wait. It's going to open in 2026. So that program has helped mostly hotels. Yeah. Because one key component of the financing program is that you have to generate sales tax revenue. So not every idea are we able to do that, but I think that's why it's kind of more driven towards hotel development than other ideas. But look, you get your share over there. So
and Rita, I look forward to seeing a picture when it opens of you on the water slide waving to everybody. One more question. What recommendations or advice do you have for businesses or organizations looking to thrive in the travel and tourism sector in the region?
I'll say, I think the most important thing to do is be a storyteller. People travel for stories. They want to have a story. They want to be part of their story, or they're interested in a story. So you really have to tell your story. Why is your business different? Why are you unique? And everybody's got a history. Everybody's got their story. So make sure you tell that and be authentic about it. That's what people are looking for. They want that authentic experience. to share some history. I think that's a great way to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. Whit nailed it. Be authentic. Don't try to be something you're not. Have a business plan. Be patient. Going to have ups and downs just like any other industry. But in the long run, people want to travel. It is an innate in us when we are born at birth. And so people will always want to do that. And you just have to try to get your fair share of that.
Do you guys work with, or have you seen any innovative entrepreneurial ventures that are trying to capture demand or trying to be successful in the tourism industry that you potentially even partner with?
Well, we didn't mention, no, I think Dwayne mentioned, anyway, craft. All about the craft, taking products, agriculture, agritourism, matching with the traveler, and it is storytelling. It is something totally unique because you're probably using natural products that are from that area or that region. Then you blend that together with the trail experience, because if you have a series of these, then you create how people can go from one to the other. And that really is a business unto itself if you want to engage in, that's mostly, if we're talking about craft food consumption, but there's so many different areas to do that. I think we mentioned fishing, and so just use what you have that's natural to your area, your region, your state, and then see what's working and see where the investments are being made, because wherever your business is located, you want to obviously advocate for community, building a vibrant community and showcasing that.
Right. You
Yeah,
guys,
and
go
I'll
ahead.
just say, as a group, Travel South's engaged with a program called the Tourism Exchange, which is technology. It's a new technology that's come in, and that's going to, I think, really help us grow in the international markets. It's essentially a receptive tour operator. So in other words, it takes smaller attractions that we have across the states that maybe wouldn't be available to international travelers, and it puts their booking info into a database that an international traveler, or travel agent, say in Germany, could book them, where they used to not be able to, they were unknown to these people. So I think there are things like that, ways in which technology is going to make travel easier, and we're going to try and leverage it to help small businesses and rural areas across our states.
Great.
And we storytell on our own because each of us has to, I'll call it, justify our existence by showing that what has been invested in our marketing or our development or our creating and helping our localities with development, with how to maximize their tourism potential, and telling that story to the public. In this case, Virginians, the North Carolinians, the South Carolinians, like, people want to know that all that their government is doing or investing in has a return, and the return has value for people. So I think that what we do as an industry and as a sector is critically important. 1 out of 10 people work in travel. It's a dynamic export for the United States. It's something that helps people intrinsically with the value of travel and tourism. So I think all of it together is really useful and resourceful. And as Dwayne said, it is all economic development because it's driving business and it drives the bottom line.
And people in travel are generally nice, hospitable people, for the most part, which is a good thing. So I'm going to move to, I think I'm going to move to a quick lightning round. We have 7 more minutes left. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And so I have 3 questions. And so just a quick answer. I won't ask which state has the best food because I'm trying to keep this as a friendly competition. But all of you, I have definitely had great food in each and every one of your states. Risk. So what keeps you up at night?
Labor market.
There you go.
Not enough
Agreed.
people. Not enough people.
Yep. Whit?
Yeah, I would also say, the couch I think my biggest competitor is not Virginia nor South Carolina. It's the couch. It's the increasing amount of entertainment people can get at home where they don't have to travel. So that's one of the things I worry about is we need to keep encouraging people to travel and make sure they have these great experiences.
Rita?
I'd say organizationally, just retaining great people that work for the company and making what you offer have value, because they will say that people don't always just simply look at their salary. They always look at how they're being treated and how the organization is adapting to certain policies. So I think, and as an example for us, remote work is here to stay in some form, demonstrating flexibility, having great benefits, but also just, again, as an organization, to make sure that you're investing in people and building, because there's nothing worse than turnover and inconsistency in product delivery. We're in the customer service business so deeply, and the sales business, that you have to know your product, you have to know your audience, and then you have to have great delivery on the individuals who work for you. So I think what keeps me up at night is turnover. We don't have a lot, but even if I lose like 1 or 2 people, it's like, it's not good.
Awesome. Okay, I did have one additional question sneak in here, and this is a bit of a tactical question. So, do you have any input for B&B country farm owners who are trying to increase midweek stays rather than just weekend stays, including stays from locals? So this is more of a tactical marketing strategy if you're trying to get those midweek stays versus those leisure travelers that are just booking on the weekend.
Yeah, I think use the people who are traveling while they work. Hopefully you've got good broadband access. And if you've got that, make a play for those people to come and work, show how you've got a nice work session set up where they can work and the kids can milk the cows or do whatever you've got on your thing. But I think that's a good play, especially for midweek.
Yeah, I would agree. Just going after people who can work or who can work from there. And then those that are retired, they're 65 and above, they can travel, Tuesday and Wednesday to them is just like Friday and Saturday. So that's your target market there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
whatever value you can add. I mean, I don't know if you have a frequency, like a frequent flyer program for people who are really committed to, or will bring up like a referral program. Just invest in great social media and digital media awareness.
Great. All right, this is going to be the last question. Then I'm going to thank all the panelists for doing such a phenomenal job. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you today. So this is a fun question. Which area in your state or Commonwealth is drawing the most visitor interest, and that anybody who's listening on the webinar should consider going to visit if they haven't?
Let you guys go first.
That's easy. That's easy for me. Charleston. It's been on fire for a while now. It's been the #1 on Condé Nast list for, I think, 8 years, #1 on Travel Leisure's list for the last 11 years is destination North America. With that, obviously comes, travel, a lot of people moving there, it comes pressures. Charleston is a peninsula itself. But they've been able to manage and sustain that growth there. But it's why to go there. The history, the culture, the food is phenomenal. The beaches are wonderful. It's just a great place to go visit. And it's unlike any other U.S. city. That's all.
Great. Whit?
Yeah, I've got a group of friends who are planning a meeting for the fall and they keep going, let's go to Charleston. And I'm like, you realize I'm a North Carolina tourism director. So I get that. With us, Asheville and the Outer Banks are our big hitters. But I tell you one place that's really gotten a lot of rave reviews and a lot of media surrounding, and it's just exploding. It's Durham, North Carolina. Former tobacco place, but lots of great things to do, great places to eat and see and hang out. That's kind of our hot spot right now.
Great. All right, Rita, you get to wrap us up.
All right. Well, I'm looking ahead just a tad, but we're already into our 250th American anniversary. So we have commissions all across the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I would say that starts with Capital City and Richmond, and then taking in the historic triangle of Yorktown, Jamestown, and Colonial Williamsburg. And they all just make a nice compliment to one another. And Carly Farino is our honorary chair, and our governor is very involved, as well as First Lady. So really, we're looking forward to working with statewide localities, but having that commemoration as a reason to travel to Virginia. But all of our states, have a equal relevance in that, but primarily Virginia, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. And we want to be number one, and we want to beat everybody because we're so competitive.
Well, great. It's 1 o'clock, and I was going to put in Charlottesville too as a UVA fan. So you
Oh, of course,
definitely go there as well. But thank you all for spending an hour of insightful and interesting conversation. And thank you everyone who took your time to listen to this panel. I
Thanks,
appreciate getting a chance to spend time with other hospitality folks. So everybody, thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Right.
You were
Thanks
terrific.
a
And
lot.
thanks, my neighbors. Thanks, guys. See
Thank
you
you.
somewhere
Thanks,
soon at a
Sophia.
meeting.
All righty.
All
I'll
right.
come visit.
Bye.
See you soon.